Merci, Cole.
Era la única manera de salvar...
Fuerzas para afrontar lo que te espera.
¡Cuidado!
Hello, Areski friends. In this episode, we're bringing you the latest action film released in 2025. This movie is a continuation of the previous installment titled Lost Bullet. The story follows Lino, who has just been released from prison and is determined to seek revenge for the death of his mentor, Charas. He's also set on uncovering the truth behind a conspiracy involving Areski, a corrupt police commander, and Resz, a cunning and deceitful officer. With the help of Julia, a loyal police officer, Lino embarks on a mission of vengeance packed with intense action, high-speed chases, and brutal battles. So without further ado, here is the plot summary of Last Bullet. In Germany, deep in the forest, a man was riding his motorcycle casually when suddenly, his brakes failed. He lost control and crashed, spinning violently toward disaster. After the fall, he sensed something even worse was coming, something that would change his life forever. And he was right. German police arrived, not to arrest him, but to take him out. But acting fast, he hijacked one of their motorcycles, and an intense chase began. He is Areski, a fugitive with a past stained by blood and betrayal, now hiding behind a new identity. Although he's managed to escape the police, there's one thing he can't outrun: the guilt that haunts him, reminding him of every life he has ever taken. Areski fled, leaving behind his wife and child after killing his own partner. Since then, he moved to Germany and started a new life as a carpenter. He also manipulated a woman into marrying him, making his cover seem more believable and keeping suspicion away. But even in hiding, Areski hasn't completely left his dark life behind. He continues to do dirty work, partnering with corrupt German cops and acting as a courier for illegal goods.
Marco est mort.
As Areski was about to deliver the goods, the police returned to settle an old score. And once again, a high-speed chase ensued. Thanks to his reckless driving skills, Areski managed to escape. Once he got home, he told his second wife to leave town immediately. Meanwhile, he began preparing cash, a passport, and a pistol, ready to flee Germany. His wife was confused, unsure of what was really going on. But Areski didn't have time to explain. Just as he was about to leave, the German police arrived. They revealed Areski's true identity, leaving his wife even more bewildered. But there was no time for explanations. The officers, sent to capture Areski, mercilessly shot his wife dead. As Areski stared at her lifeless body, the police told him they had been sent by his former superior. They then searched the house and took a bag, unaware that the bag actually contained. As a result of the explosion, the German officers were killed instantly. The two remaining cops were no match for Areski. With brutal force, he took them down one by one. However, Areski intentionally spared one officer and forced him to tell his boss that Areski was dead. After that, Areski set the house on fire and planned to return to France. Upon arriving in France, Areski went straight to a used car lot to rent a modified Renault 21 equipped with weapons. But since the car had already been destroyed, he was forced to settle for a regular van instead. Elsewhere, we're introduced to a corrupt police commander named Alexander, or let's just call him Alex. He's the one who paid the German police to eliminate Areski, because Areski had disrupted his illegal business operations. Here, Alex meets with other officers who hand over a gangster named Lino, Areski's former friend. Once the officers leave, Lino is immediately beaten. Meanwhile, the officers who had handed over Lino were on their way back to the station. They actually knew all about Alex's crimes and were just waiting for the right moment to expose everything. But just as they were about to reach the destination, suddenly, it turned out that the ones who crashed into the honest officers were also from the police force. They were led by Yuri, Alex's right-hand man, not only skilled in combat, but also an expert at covering things up. Yuri had been ordered to eliminate the honest cops who had uncovered Alex's crime. After taking him out, Yuri reported back to Alex that the job was done. Alex, upon receiving Yuri's message, returned to where Lino was, now bruised and beaten. Alex could have easily killed Lino right then and there, but he chose not to dirty his hands with something he saw as meaningless. Instead, he ordered Lino to disappear, to stay far away from his illegal business. If not, everyone close to Lino would be eliminated. After being released by Alex, Lino reunited with his old friend Julia. She was a police officer who also shared the same ambition, to bring Alex to justice. Julia offered Lino an honest job, hoping to steer him away from his past. But the gangster told her that he planned to move to Spain in the near future. Meanwhile, we're shown a female officer named Moss, who is reporting all of Alex's corruption and criminal activities. However, her superiors don't believe her, as there has never been any solid evidence to back up her claims. At the same time, Lino, just out of the shower, discovered an interrogation recording in his home. It turned out to be a recording of an interrogation related to a murder committed by Areski. The story goes back 2 years, when Areski had a falling out with his partner, Charas. At that time, Areski was faced with a choice, to become an honest cop or continue working for Alex. But since he was already deeply involved, Areski sank further into the world of crime. One day, Alex ordered him to eliminate Charas, who had become a threat to his business. Reluctantly, Areski was forced to kill his own friend. It wasn't just Lino who was haunted by the past. Areski also continued to feel guilty for killing Charas. He even kept a keychain that Charas had given him, as a reminder of his unforgivable sins. Sins that could never be erased. He regretted choosing money over his own friend. Later, Areski contacted his first wife, Stella, and told her that he would be coming home soon. Meanwhile, Alex was pressuring police officials to appoint him as chief of police, believing that the position would allow him to expand his illegal operations. However, the higher-ups were not fully convinced just yet, especially since Alex still kept someone like Yuri by his side, a notoriously brutal man who could become a liability in the future. As a result, Alex asked Yuri to keep his distance while they were at the police station, fearing that his presence could damage his chances of promotion. After Yuri left, Alex's assistant, Cole, advised him to double-check Areski's supposed death in Germany, as he suspected Areski might still be alive. It wasn't just Lino who was haunted by the past. Areski also continued to feel guilty for killing Charas. He even kept a keychain that Charas had given him, as a reminder of his unforgivable sins. sins that could never be erased. He regretted choosing money over his own friend. Later, Areski contacted his first wife, Stella, and told her that he would be coming home soon. Meanwhile, Alex was pressuring police officials to appoint him as chief of police, believing that the position would allow him to expand his illegal operations. However, the higher-ups were not fully convinced just yet, especially since Alex still kept someone like Yuri by his side, a notoriously brutal man who could become a liability in the future. As a result, Alex asked Yuri to keep his distance while they were at the police station, fearing that his presence could damage his chances of promotion. After Yuri left, Alex's assistant, Cole, advised him to double-check Areski's supposed death in Germany, as he suspected Areski might still be alive.
Quoi, mais de quoi tu parles là?
Je t'expliquerai plus tard. Préviens tout le monde.
Meanwhile, Areski went to see Stella. He missed his child and wanted to meet them. However, Stella didn't allow it. She wanted her husband to repent first by turning himself into the authorities. Resigned, Areski agreed, but just as he was about to leave, Yuri suddenly showed up and attacked him. To escape, Areski rushed into a tram, but unfortunately, Yuri managed to catch up with him. Without warning, the two immediately engaged in a brutal fight, each trying to take the other down by any means necessary.
Qu'est-ce qui se passe là?
Not long after, Lino also entered the tram to capture Areski. But when he saw Yuri, the hatred he had long buried came rushing back. In the end, Lino fought both of them at once. And the tram turned into a battlefield filled with hatred. While Lino was busy beating up Yuri, Areski managed to escape by jumping out of the tram and hijacking a police motorcycle. Seeing that, Lino immediately went after him. At the same time, Julia also joined the chase. Areski, Julia, and Lino found themselves trapped in a high-speed chase filled with blood, violence, and betrayal, racing toward an inevitable fate. Unfortunately, during the chase, Lino's car was wrecked, and he was immediately surrounded by the police. Meanwhile, Julia kept chasing Areski, who was incredibly hard to catch. Then, with cunning, Areski managed to outsmart Julia and held her at gunpoint from behind. Meanwhile, Moss questioned Stella and Lino about Areski's reappearance. Stella herself seemed shocked by all the chaos that had unfolded, prompting Lino to try and calm Areski's wife down. At this point, Stella no longer had any trust in Areski. She felt that a man like him didn't deserve to be a father to their child anymore.
Je pensais pouvoir le raisonner. Je sais.
At the same time, Yuri arrived at Alex's office in a severely wounded condition. There, he handed over a bag filled with Areski's money. As a loyal follower, Yuri declared that he was willing to do anything for Alex. Meanwhile, Areski contacted Moss to propose a deal. In short, he would release Julia if he was allowed to see his child. Additionally, Areski offered to help Moss take down Alex, as he had plenty of evidence of Alex's crimes. Moss and Julia agreed to cooperate. They planned to launch a joint operation with the German police, since Alex had also been secretly smuggling goods into that country. However, Julia didn't want to involve Lino in the mission, because she knew that Lino would kill Areski before the mission could be completed. That night, Julia released Lino from the police station. She then told him to go to Spain and stay out of her plan. Julia forbade Lino from getting involved because she cared deeply about him. And she didn't want to see him get hurt. But deep down inside, she actually needed his help. After thinking it over for a moment, she finally allowed him to join the mission. Then she took him to Sarah's garage to modify Derek's car with combat weapons.
Ça marchera jamais. Elle est trop petite. Pas la meilleure.
Tu proposes quoi?
Bien lourd. Et pas très fiable.
Je te l'ai déjà dit.
Et tous les deux à 22h juste pour le fun.
Meanwhile, in another location, Moss secretly met with Alex to strike a deal. It turned out that the police officer we thought was honest had actually been working with the enemy all along. Here, Moss promised to hand over Areski to Alex, as long as Alex helped him secure a position in the ministry. In other words, Moss planned to leak Julia's entire plan afterward. Alex then gathered Yuri and his men to intercept Julia and Areski. Before leaving, Yuri promised not to let Alex down. But in truth, Alex no longer needed him, as Yuri could become an obstacle to his promotion. That's why Alex had secretly ordered his men to eliminate Yuri.
On te remercie pour tes services.
Long story short, Julia and Areski were finally on their way to the meeting point with the German police, who were already waiting at the border area. For safety, they used an armored jeep. To be allowed into the border zone, Julia asked Moss for help in persuading the guards. Unbeknownst to her, Moss was actually with Cole and about to sign a cooperation deal. On top of that, Moss had already given Alex the meeting location so he could capture Areski. And sure enough, just as Julia was about to arrive, they were ambushed by Alex's men. Just as Julia and Areski began to struggle, Lino showed up and went wild in action with his modified car.
J'ai perdu de la puissance moteur.
Faut que j'arrive à me débarrasser des décors.
Et voilà.
Thanks to Lino's help, they finally made it there safely. But to their shock, Alex and his group had already sorted all the German police at the scene. Seeing that, Julia, Lino, and Areski could do nothing but surrender to the situation.
Démarre putain, qu'est-ce que tu fous?
After capturing him, Alex told Julia that Moss had betrayed her. And while Julia was still in shock, Alex shot her. He then ordered his men to kill Lino and Areski and dump their bodies far away. But before that could happen, Yuri, who turned out to still be alive, appeared to take his revenge on Alex.
Charas voit tout ça. Oh merde.
Thanks to Yuri, Alex and his group were brutally killed. Seeing an opportunity, Areski took the chance to escape. Meanwhile, Lino tried to help Julia, who had been shot in the stomach. Fortunately, she was wearing a bulletproof vest. Before it was too late, Julia asked Lino to catch Areski, to revenge Charas' death. Without hesitation, Lino immediately went after him. Not long after, Lino and Julia managed to drag Areski to the front of the police station. Moss, who saw them, was visibly shocked. He had thought they were dead. As a result, he pretended to be friendly in front of Julia, but that only made her even more determined to put him behind bars. Meanwhile, Cole, upon learning that his boss was dead, tried to take Alex's money and escape. But Yuri was already waiting there to finish him off. At the end of the film, Areski, now in custody and reflecting on his fate, accidentally saw Stella and their child passing by. He instinctively tried to approach them, but the police held him back. Stella also refused to allow it. All that remained was a deep regret that would never fade. And that's the end of this movie recap. Guys, don't forget to support this channel by clicking subscribe, like, share, and leaving a comment if you enjoyed the video. See you in the next Areski movie recaps. Thank you.